So, okay, so here we go now. I will share my screen. So here we go. Okay, so I trust that everyone is seeing the screen.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So guys, the only thing, so I just opened a file with a ArchiCAD default template, ArchiCAD 24 default template. I also went to, since this is going to be a multi-story building, I also went to the project map, and under the stories, I right-click. I went to the story settings, and I just changed the height of the first 5 stories to 5 meters, and then I keep inserting above more stories to have 16. Let's say we want to go into 20 stories, so we just click to insert above, and you will duplicate the number of stories with the height that we have assumed. So let's do this, all of you. Just make from ground floor to the 4th story a 5 meter story height. Then from the 5th to the 20th, a 4 meter story height. And then, very important, the story where you have clicked the last and you click OK, that will be the story that you will end up with here. Okay. So just give me some feedback once you have it sorted. So with this, we are setting the file so that anytime that we have a section, elevation, whenever we click on the view, all these stories will be represented in our project. Okay, because I set up 20 stories, that is what is showing me on this section. Okay, so then we go back to the ground floor, and here is where we're going to start our model. Okay, make sure you have this set. And very important, you also check what is the total elevation of our building once we have this. So it would be 85 meters if we end here. If we add something on top of this floor, we need to increase that value. Let's say we want a 3 meter story on top of this one, then it will be 88 meters. We can also write here, let's say we want this to be the roof story, or roof plan. So we click OK, and you see again, because I had this one selected, this is the story that we go to. So let's double click on the ground floor. So we go back to the ground floor and we start checking the, or we're gonna start our design here. Okay, also very important, we have by default in our template these 4 markers here. These 4 markers are actually telling us the different elevations. We have the south, the east, the north, and west elevations. So we can just use this to model our project inside here. And the tool that we're going to use to start our project here will be the morph. So if you're not familiar with the names of the tools yet, you can just click at the edge of this palette or this toolbar, and you can choose, for example, morph. and just draw, let's say we want to draw a rectangular shape, or even a more, let's say, even a more complex shape. So our building footprint will be something like this. Okay, is everyone following?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So I also done one more thing here, which is I took a slab and I draw it here so that we have some context. A slab that I draw with 55 meters by 40 meters. Let's say this is our land plot, and with all the setbacks, everything, we had to draw something like this. Okay. So now we go to 3D to see how this works. So you press either F3 or you go here on this tab here and you see it. And in our 3D, you will see that I have my morph together with my slab. If your slab is overlapping the morph, change this reference plane, select the slab, change the reference plane to this one on top so that our slab moves to the bottom, so that the top of the slab is the bottom of our morph. Okay, so you see at the moment what I have is I have this morph in the terrain, in the land plot that I have created also. Okay, so what are we going to do now? Selecting the morph, we can just click on it and choose, for example, I want the push-pull. Make sure you have the morph selected first, so it should say here all selected one, and it should say that it's a morph. And then we click on it on the surface, and we choose the option to push-pull. And you can see that visually, because we have created the stories, we can actually choose until when I want to push-pull. Let's say I want to push-pull to the 4th story, because this will be my podium, and then I will have on top of the podium, I will have another shape for this tower. Let's say we have a shopping center with 4 stories, or a car park with 4 stories, and then we'll have a tower that will sit on top of this podium. Okay, are you all following? I don't see any text on the chat, so it should be fine. Okay, perfect. So just to see how this is turning out automatically, we can go to any elevation and see that this is actually being automatically populated. Okay, so I can just go to any elevation and see this happening. Okay, so I have my site and I have my building already placed there. Okay, so let's continue then. I can see one thing, that, for example, I extruded the height of this one up to the 4th story, but actually our podium should go all the way up to the 5th story. So how can we change this? I just click on it again, and using the push-pull command again, I just drag it to the 5th story. And just like that, it's done. So we can also do that horizontally. So let's say I want, for some reason, this plane to move, let's say, 5 meters to the right. So I can now have a shape that is changed. And let's say I want this line here to move. So I can just take this one and stretch it to one end, and now I have a flat side here. So this works a little bit like SketchUp. So you guys just spend some time playing with it. I could say, let's say later on for my project, I wanted to have here some shape, say on this facade. Say I draw this line here, and I want to offset in by some portion. I want to have some shape that, or some subtraction done to this element here. So this is very, I would say, up to you how you want to continue editing the shape. I'll just keep it simple, just like this. Okay, so we have the podium already set. We can see that if I go to the first story, this shape is here, and I continue going up third, fourth, fifth, sixth story. When I get to the sixth story, it's no longer there because it's not touching that one, right? But let's say we want to see this element even when we are above. So we can go to the sixth story, and then we right click on the fifth and say we want to show as trace and reference. So meaning it's like when you use tracing paper, you're seeing what is below, the shape of the element below. And if you want to have also as a reference the site, you can do the show as trace and reference from the ground floor. So this one, you also have the land plot that was generated there. Okay. So now, let's say on top of this one, we want to have another tower that will be just a square tower. So we go back to the morph tool here on the left side of the screen, choose morph, and we can even choose a different material. So instead of prefabricated as it is there, we can choose, for example, glass. So choose here under the structure, you choose glass, and we're going to draw somewhere here in the middle. We choose the rectangular shape now, and we're going to make 10 meter by 10 meter tower. So I put 10,000, then arrow down 10,000. So this will be the core of my tower. Okay, so it will sit on top of this. Then I could develop, some lift shafts here, some staircase well, whatever. And basically this would be my kind of building. Okay, all of you following? Okay. Okay. Okay, so now we can go to 3D here. You can press F3. It's faster to see the change. So I can have now this tower here. I can extrude it below 5 meters, and I'm extruding up actually 4 meters. And you see, it's very useful that we always have the visual to snap to the story height that we want. So let's say this will be our tower, and we can just use this to check how our building is done. We can go to a section and see that this is now our tower is set. Okay. So let's go back to 3D. Let's say this is our design, but we want to make something even more complex out of this. So you don't need to follow this part. This is just to show you how we can edit further the design. So I will change this to select just the surface of the morph, and I will rotate this upper surface. Right. Okay, so I'm just gonna make this a little bit more interesting. So I've skewed the tower. So you can see here, I have rotated it. So now what will happen is on every story, I see the tower rotated. Okay, I'm seeing the podium rotated. So for now, I'm seeing only the full projection. So it's showing the outlines only of this, but I want projected with overhead. So if I do like this, now I can see, okay, on the ground floor, this is my podium, where it's cutting on the first, second, third, fourth, fifth. And then I can show every story onwards from here. Okay, obviously this tower towards the top is always the same, so it doesn't make any difference. Okay, so has everyone followed so far? We have some questions. Yeah, I see. It's a component-based CAD software. Can I import my pre-designed steel structure? Yes. Okay, I know that ArchiCAD runs on Surface Pro. Obviously, the better, the more RAM, the more powerful it is, the better it works. Yeah. So you need an operating system where you can install software, like full-fledged software. So that's why on iPad it's just for apps. So ArchiCAD doesn't have an app. The only app that we have in our ecosystem is BIMX. Okay. So if you use SolidWorks to design the detailed connections on structural components, you can bring them inside ArchiCAD through IFC. Okay, so let's move on to the model. We can see here these are all project is having. So what I will do now is I'll go to 3D, and I want to control the areas that I'm having on this project. So I will select the tower, the residential tower, and I will call it so I will use a trick to control this. So under the ID and categories, I call it, let's say, building tower. Okay. So I click OK. And on the podium, I go to the settings as well. Under ID and categories, to go to the settings, you click here on the icon on top. It should be a selected element. So to select, you use Shift to select. Okay. And then we call this one building podium. Okay. I click OK. So what happens is that now within my project, I know that I can ask, hey, give me the areas per floor from the building podium and the building tower. Okay. So how do I get that from my model? I just go to the schedules here on the right side. I'll go under elements, and you see, like by default, ArchiCAD already has a few schedules. Let me open this up a bit more. So we have wall schedules, opening schedules, door schedule, windows, object schedules. Obviously, we don't have any of this so far. So we only have massing done with a morph. So what we will do is we'll create a new schedule by right-clicking on top of elements, click new schedule, and I'll call it, let's say, concept design. The name will be area schedule. Okay. So what do I want to schedule? This is like playing the game Who's Who. So the element type is, I say that a morph. So this is the element that I'm scheduling. And I will add a criteria that the ID, the element ID, contains the word building. Okay, because imagine that I had a lot of morphs created on this project, and I don't want to schedule every one of them. I just want to schedule the ones that I identified. So in this case, I use the ID to do that. Okay, is this? I think that this is clear. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say which fields I'm going to schedule. So I want from the morph, I want the area by story, and I want to know what is the ID of this element. So if you don't want to know, if it's tough for you to find it, you can just write here on top ID, and it tells you like anything that it could be the ID. So I will choose the hotlink and element ID, or only the element ID. Actually, I don't need the hotlink, so remove. So I will have first, so I can drag up first the name of the building, then I will have the area by story, but I could also have, let's say, another setting, which is the story. So home story name. So I'll just double click on the home story name. I don't think it's home story name. Let me check. Well, let's do it without it. Okay, let's just keep these two for now. Element ID, area by story. And in the end, I would like to have a summary of areas by story. And I put the flag here because I want that to be divided by building type, which is by element ID. So I put a flag on the first one and the sum sign on the second one. So once I click OK, I should have here the CD, the concept design area schedule. Double click, and you see here that under the building podium, I have this height by story, this area by story. Then on each floor of the tower, I have this area by story. So in total, we have 3351. This is the total of the residential. So if I show headline, it means that it will organize it like this. Let me just make this a bit smaller so you can see. So I choose to show headline. If I want to merge uniform items, I just see, okay, the building podium is this much area and the residential is this much area. Let's say we could have more area for the whole residential tower. So what I can do is just go to the model, and let's say here on this side, I choose to make this tower wider, let's say by 2000. So by increasing it here by 2000, when I go to my area schedule, you see now I have 1800 square meters for my tower. Okay, and if you need to have, let's say 2000 square meters or 2100, you can just go to the 3D again, extrude another side. Let's say you want this to be another 2000. And now I can go to my area schedule and I have more area. Let's say I could build up to 4,000 square meters on this project. So you see that with this, it's quite simple to keep doing your design changes, and then your project will reflect the areas, the quantities immediately from the model. And let's say now if I choose to rotate this because I want this tower to be a bit rotated, I can just rotate it here. Obviously, in terms of areas, it keeps the same, but my representation of the project is now different. So everywhere in every story, I will have a representation of my tower correctly done. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Okay. So yeah, I still see that the discussion is still a bit around the computers. Yeah, I can share the link later for the recommended specs for a machine running ArchiCAD.
Don't worry, Marcelo, I will do that. Yeah, I will share that.
Okay. Okay. So guys, we have, let's say that we got to this point where we have just a building massing. We're happy with the shape. We can go around and just, I don't know, in this case, I select this point and I want to slant this surface here. We can start, playing around with our building. And let's say we want to add some more detail to this project, okay? So what could we do? Let's say I want to start going here to the 6th story and place a slab that has exactly the contour of this podium here. So I will just click and follow the contour of the facade because I have the representation of the edge of this project. So I could just bring it here and I would have now a slab that is sitting on top of my podium. I could do also like go to each story. Actually, this one should be on the 5th, not on the 6th. Then I could go to each story here and say that, okay, for this tower, I want to have the slab that is placed here on the same location as the morph, and I choose to click on the edge, and I will have a 2-meter balcony all around my building. Okay, so I go to 3D, and this is what I have. Okay, and let's say that we want to have this repeated everywhere in every floor. So obviously we can go and copy and paste in every floor, but ArchiCAD allows us to do this in a faster way. So I'll just multiply, and I want to elevate copies, spread. I know the floor to floor height is 4 meters, and I want to set the home story by elevation. Okay, so quite simple. I'll repeat the steps. Select the slab, click on it, choose to multiply, elevate, spread every 4 meters, set home story by elevation, because this means that every slab will belong to the floor where it's sitting. And then we click OK, and we just drag all the way up to the location, up to the height where we want these. Okay. So we have a little bit more detail here. So we could go to a section or an elevation and see how this is turning out. Very interestingly, we can just, on a section, we see here that the building is being cropped on that side. We can just choose this slider to open up and see that we can actually change the width of our marker. Obviously, when we go to 2D, the marker will be extended here based on what is showing. Okay, we can also do this manually here on the plan by choosing to extend to the limit that we want. Okay, so just click and use the edges, this move stretch option to extend the width of each one of our sections. Okay, so we have now added south elevation, checked on the south elevation, north elevation, and we have an accurate representation of our project, how it's shown. Let's say we want to add more detail into this project. So let's go to 3D, and it's nice for us to do this kind of editing directly in 3D. So let's say I want to create some curtain wall pattern for this shopping center or car park or whatever here. So I will choose a curtain wall, double click on the curtain wall, and from the arrows here we can choose what type of curtain wall we want to have. So this can be a generic curtain wall. We can choose many favorites. So we can choose one for the whole thing, one for the scheme. So let's say we want to have this kind of honeycomb scheme here. So we just double click on this one, and this will be the height of our curtain wall. So we'll choose 2,500 here by 2,500, because each floor that we have is 5 meters. And let's say we put 1,250, 1,250, 1,250, 1,250. Okay. So this will be our pattern that will be repeated. Let's say if we want this bigger, the B, we can do 2,500 or whatever dimension, so that this shows exactly the shape as you want to see it. Once you're happy with this, so what will happen is I will have this panel that will be glass and the rest of the panels will be solid. Once we're happy with this, we click OK. So this will try to place this shape in our project. Obviously, I have complicated a bit by breaking these surfaces into different triangles. So what I want to do is fill each one of these triangles with one curtain wall. Okay, so how can we do this? Basically, I will choose curtain wall as we have selected. Then I will choose the option to define the boundary, and the plane input method will be the second one. So if you can't follow this, it will be saved on the video. I think this is always a bit tough to understand the concept. So basically, I'm choosing the plane input. So the first thing I do is I click on a plane. So I'm clicking on this one. And what ArchiCAD is doing is creating this blue plane that will be attached to the surface that I have just clicked on. So it knows that I want to do a curtain wall on this surface here. Second thing is I'll be drawing with a boundary. So you can see here, it says that I have to enter first node of curtain wall boundary. So what I will do is I'll press space and click here, because with space, you can read what is the boundary that I have available there. And when I click, what it's actually doing is placing immediately the curtain wall there. Okay, so I just keep doing this for everything else. I click another boundary, space, click. So I have another curtain wall placed there. I know you might tell me, oh, they're not starting in the same position. This will be super hard to connect with this pattern, because actually they are these curtain walls, they would have different length here because they are slanted. But I will show you how we can adjust that. So I click on another surface, space, click, 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 another surface, space, click. Oops, even I miss sometimes. Surface, space, click, surface, space, click. And you see I have actually just followed through with my whole scheme. So what is happening here is that if you click somewhere along the same vertical line, what it will do, you see that I clicked here. If I do it the same thing up here, it will be more aligned. But we can actually choose to edit and move the scheme grid. I'm turning off everything and move the scheme grid all of it to the side. So if I overlap it here, you see that it's overlapping with the previous one. And now I exit. Actually, I moved a bit more. So I edit, scheme grid. You can see I have the one below here as well. So I click this one. I move it to the side, one more. Okay, seems to be more or less correct. Okay, so you see I managed to adjust slightly. Obviously the height here won't be the same. So if I want to edit in terms of height, I choose the scheme grid. And okay. As I mentioned, since this is slanted, it's hard to connect everywhere the same because the true length is not the same everywhere. But I think you got the idea. And if we go now to the elevations, we start seeing our pattern, our project design taking shape, and see how this is moving forward. Okay, so we have, let's say, completed the podium. Now let's say I want to do similar thing to the residential. I go to the 5th story, and I know that this is my morph. So this is the edge of my apartment. So what I will do is I will go and choose another curtain wall to be my apartment pattern. And let's say in this case, we will even do our own pattern. So I'll choose an empty one. And here we will say that we want, in terms of width, this to be, let's say 2000 each panel. In terms of height, we want to make 3000 one panel, or let's say 2600. And then we add one more, and we say this is not 2600, it's 1400. Why do I want 1400? So the total height here I have is 4 meters, which is exactly what I have from floor to floor. If you wanted to subtract the slab and not go through all the way through the slab, you can do, let's say, 1002, and then you would have, you know, the window, and then you have some panel above the window. Okay, so I have 3.8 for this curtain wall. Okay, then we can choose each panel. I want this to be a main panel. I want this part to be a division. I want here to have a division as well. Same, a division here on the right side. Okay, and a division on top. So this will put a frame, or let's say I want this to be a boundary frame on top, a boundary frame on the side, or a transom frame, or a mullion frame. So you can choose. So these are basically classifications that all these different elements have. So here, instead of main panel, I have a distinct panel on top, and I have a main panel here on the bottom. So here is main, on top is distinct. Okay, this is quite simple. If I want to add another one on the side, let's say I want to have one more panel here, I click plus, and this panel will be 1000 width only. And in this case, I will have, I can even have this one here on top instead of having a mullion frame. I just have a division so that it will go around with this solid thing. And I also have just a division here. Okay. So we can actually choose exactly how we want this curtain wall to be. So I will choose the overall height for the curtain wall. We saw that this is 3800. And what I will do is I will choose to place this curtain wall. I click OK. You see that it has an ID as well. We can call it curtain wall 01, and then each one of them that will be increased will be 02, 03, and so on. And now I will choose a different construction method. Before I was going by boundary. Now what I want to do is choose by pressing and holding here. I want to choose to have a curtain wall that will go around my my units. Okay. So let me just display order, bring to front because it was staying on the back. So what happened here to my curtain wall? Because under my scheme, I have the number of divisions set. What it's doing is it's spreading along this facade. I have a locked value here, which is 1 meter, and an unlocked value, the 2 meters. So what it's doing is it's stretching the 2 meters and keeping the 1 meter. But if I choose fixed sizes for all of them, if I choose the fixed sizes and I want, let's say 2000 again. Okay, 2000. So what it will do is it will spread around with all this repetition of sizes. Obviously, when you cannot make the full size, it will just place a smaller one. So we have a 1 meter, and when it was going to do a 2 meter, when it gets to the corner, it just has to bend it. Okay, so I go to 3D and I check. Here is my curtain wall that is actually placed inside my morph. Okay, so how can I copy this one? I could do the same thing as I've done before. So I just select it and then multiply the same way as I've done before. But I'll teach you another way to do this. So we go to the floor plan. And we right click here on the 5th story. We choose edit elements by story. And we want to copy every curtain wall. So I choose all types. Only the curtain wall, I want to copy it to all the stories above. So I want it from the 6 onwards. I click OK. So what it's doing is copying it alone. I don't need to do anything to extra for this to happen. I go to 3D and here you go. I have my tower already done. Obviously, we could have done this the other way, just copy and pasting, moving it onward manually. So we could have done the same thing, you know, with placing a glass railing here. This could be a wall going around, could be a railing. So let's say I even want to show in 3D how we do it. So I choose here frameless glass railing. So if you click on this small arrow next to railing, it will show you some predefined railing types. So I choose this frameless glass railing. And if I press and hold space on this slab contour, it will place the railing around. And you see, I don't even need to be copying. Well, I just click, space click on every floor, space defines the contour, click, space, click, space, click, space, click, space, click. So let's say you wanted to create some different movement to the facade. Let's say you want to have every other slab you want to move it, let's say 1 meter to the side. So I put 1000. So even though I only move the slab, can you see here that the railing also follows? Because this is using, the railing is using the slab contour as a reference for it. So if I want to, for example, take the edge of a facade and curve it, or of a slab and curve it, you would also curve the railing. Let me just cover the rooftop. Okay, so you see here how quickly we started having like more data, more information for our building. I have already the curtain walls, I have the railings, I have created some dynamic to this facade, and I have my area schedule that is being representing exactly what I've done in my project. Okay, if you all followed, I see a lot of questions here. I will give the link later on. I could see that probably some of you lost me. Can I get some feedback? How many people have managed to follow? Or all of you lost? Okay, so we have some following. Okay, perfect. So basically, we could move on and continue, editing this. Obviously, I can start placing here the lift core. I can start placing the slabs. I can even use, if I want, because it's easier for me, I can even start using, some lines to define how I want to do this. Let's say I want to split this into two apartments, two bigger apartments here, a smaller apartment here, and then the lift core. I can get the object, for example, lift. I think they call it elevator here. Yeah, so I can choose the elevator. I want to show the shaft. Okay. Seems like this area. Lift. Okay. So we can start arranging this. We can see, let's say I want the lift to be shown on every floor. So it's home story only, all stories. So I want to say it goes through all the stories, what is the lift overrun, everything. Click OK. Then I can go and see on my, actually I should say that it goes all the way up. I want to go 14 stories above, 6 stories below, and here you go. So I have my lift placed, actually only one less here, 13. Okay, and if you want to just go and check how this turns out in our layouts, we have the views that are set here under the view map. Then we can check the layouts, and by default, this project is represented on the layout. So if you have set up your layouts properly, this should show directly there. We can even go and automate how this layouts are being generated. So I can just take every floor plan here. So from ground floor all the way up, and I just drag it to this folder. And what it will do is it will create one layout for each one of these drawings. And you see here that it starts documenting properly each one of these stories. Okay. Obviously, the more information you want to add, the more it will represent here. One more thing I'd like to show is how easy it is if we want to get some sections from here. So I'll just choose from here, from the viewpoint, I choose the section tool. And let's say I want to have a section on this direction. Even going through the lift core. Immediately this section becomes visible here. So I double click and he opens up the section that goes through my building. Okay, I think that with this it's pretty clear how we can continue editing our project. We can start placing the furniture. Even if we have repeated elements, we can create a module, but I don't want to go much more into detail. The idea of this session was to go through a concept design stage. So I think that this covers it quite well. One more thing we can do is we can start, working on the 2D representation. We can say, okay, I want this slab outside here to have the grass. I put a cover fill with grass. Okay. Actually, I hate this one, but okay. So I put the grass cover fill. I go a few stories up. And I want to say that this slab for my condominium is showing a cover fill for plank floor, so that we can start representing exactly how this looks. And even if I want a cover fill for the plank floor, I want it to be oriented to my slab angle. So I want it to start here, and I want it to have this orientation. Then I can obviously start adding like walls. So I place a wall here, place a wall here. I don't know. Let's say this side will be a staircase, and so on. Okay, so basically, I think that this, with this, we could conclude the session at this point. Obviously, we could go at 3D and render. Let's say I want to render this view. It will automatically render as it is by default. So we can just start having some quick previews of this. You see, this is just the out of the box right click and render. Then we can start adding more and more detail. We can make a bigger rendering depending on how you want this to be done. Another thing that can be set, for example, is how we want to show, how we want to create the grid line. I know I have some structural engineers here. Probably you're very mad at me because I didn't show this. So I'll do this part to show you a little bit. So for example, I come here to the 5th story is where I start my residential tower. And I know that I have
Marcelo, there was a question. How about annotation for schematic presentation on elevation of section?
Okay, areas and all that, right?
Yeah.
So dimensions.
Spacing, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we can do that. We can use the zone tool that will give us the naming of the space. Let's say at this stage, I don't even know how I'm splitting the areas of each exactly of each apartment. So I will call it apartment 1. And I can draw, let's say I will have, I will draw the area of apartment 1 that will be something like this. Okay, let's say I leave this space for, so this will be the apartment 1, and then I will have another one that will be apartment 2, and I draw here. Okay, let's say apartment 2, and then I call another area circulation. Okay, so for that I will have this 1, 2, 3, and we can even classify this differently. So if I choose, let's say this one, I will keep it as generic, but this one, like let's say the 2 from the apartment, I have it as residential. Okay, and we can actually choose to show the colors of these zones. So if I select the zones and bring them to the front, I can choose to show the colors of these zones. Let's say this one, I don't want to show it. So we can start seeing here exactly how we want this to be represented. We can even have different colors to show one zone and the other, and then obviously multiply this story by story. Another thing that we can do is automatically label the elements. So for example, let me close here viewpoints. Let me open this up. I want to label and I want to label with auto text. Let's say I will have a wall type, a wall here. Let me place a wall. That will be brick double plaster. I know that this doesn't make any sense, but okay. So let's say these 2 walls here will be even block. Okay, they're wider. And let me bring them up front because I have the zone that is on the way. Let me make this one concrete. Okay, so even I have this, and let's say I want to start placing some doors. I want to have a door here that is the stair door here. And so if I want to label my elements, now I have a few more construction elements. I can choose, for example, I want to place a door window stamp. So I click on the door and it will place this stamp. I will then bring all the annotations up front. I click on a wall and I want a skin list label. So it's giving me the different skins of this wall. Obviously, let me make a bigger scale so that these annotations can be more visible. Okay. So basically, when you start labeling these elements, I'm showing that this is a structural wall 05, this is 06, the door stamp, I want to move it to this location. So if I change any element, let's say this door by right should be 1000. Once I change one property on the door, it will change immediately on the stamp. So we're saying that the threshold height is 0, the width is 1 meter, and the height is 2 meters. The door name is door 001. So if I want to change by any reason the name of the door, let's say fire escape door 001, it will change it there. And instead of 001, I want just 01. So it's really up to us what kind of information we want to add here. And the beauty of this is that even if I have this elements dimension, okay, I have a dimension here, I have a dimension there. Anything that I want to change, let's say for some reason we decided with the structural engineer that this wall will be the same as that one. So you see now immediately my dimensions are different and my label is different. So you don't need to be worrying now and go and relabel or redimension everything. Okay, so you see here it says also structural wall 05, so you don't need to worry about it anymore. And if you for some reason you want to change the width here because your engineer told you that this should be a 250 mm wall, you just change it there. The dimensions will change. The dimensions on the label will change. You see that this one is 125 and these ones are 250. So this works for both elevation and floor plan. So you see here, let's say I want to label here. I want to even place dimensions here in all the stories. So I want you to read every time what is the dimension for this, or if I want to go further in detail and label how much we're going above or below the structural floor level, we can do that. So it's just a matter of how you want to label your elements, how you want to dimension it. Let's say here it makes sense for me to dimension the curtain wall. So I can just do that. You see, immediately we have the dimensions for all the elements. And the same thing works also with the labels on a section. So if I want to say what type of slab this is, I just click on each one of them and it will give me the slab type. And if for some reason I choose to change all the slabs to another type of slab, so now we chose that we want a slab insulated with parquet. Once I change this, you see that all the labels will reflect these changes. So I have plaster gypsum, then is this one, then I will have reinforced concrete, then I have insulation, then I have a concrete for filling, and then I have timber. So if I want without insulation, let's say, I just change here, and immediately I'll have a thinner slab, and it took out the insulation part from it. So I think you would all agree that, you know, in terms of bringing the design from concept stage to design development stage, this can be done quite easily, quite fast, just by editing the existing elements. And you can start by a mass modeling and then move on from the mass modeling to a concept design stage. Okay, so Zayed is asking about the columns and beams. So I think I can do that. We can do another session to show integration of M&E. Yeah. I will just show the basic what I should have shown from the beginning, which is, let's say we have this area. One thing I know that this element is slanted, so to make it easy for me to work, I'll just rotate it so it's easier for me to work. And let's say, what is my grid line? I have here 3007, 4008, 5000. So I'll go to my grid line, and I will choose a grid system.
Maslow, just a quick one before you go into the grid line. There is one question on related to zone. I think it's better we answer here. Understand the concept of zone on plans. You know, can we assign the zones to be displayed in section and elevation? It helps for the presentation. So if you are in SSA, we have an add-on that can display the zone name in section, right? So that allows you to display the name of the zones in section. That is available from our SSA website. You can actually log in and download the add-on that can be used to name the zones in the section. That is the answer for sure, right? So
by default, ArchiCAD doesn't do that. I know it's a long time wish from our users. So we have sorted out. We have developed that locally for Singapore and Malaysia clients. So as Cheetah mentions, if you're a client that has an active SSA, you can just log into our page, which is www.graphisoft.com.sg/SSA. And after logging in, you would be able to find.
Choose enter SSA site. Yeah.
.com.
No.
Yeah, it's like that.
Yeah, there is a enter SSA site.
Where is it? Oh, okay. Enter SSA site. Yeah. So if I sign in. I don't. Okay. And once I sign in with my Graphisoft ID, you can see that we have, even besides that, we have the grid extension, the zone naming section. This is the one Cheetah is mentioning for Windows and Mac. Zone stamp library. There's many objects you can check here, so they're quite useful for you to use.
Yeah, Chu as mentioned, it is not available for AC23. We will upload the AC23 add-on soon. It is already ready. We even have for AC24, so we will share that soon. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we just restructured the website is last month, so yeah, we're slowly putting everything there. So going through the grid system, you saw here, to make my life easy, I measured what is the grid system that I want to have. So I want to put dimension lines, total dimensions. I want to put beams on grids and columns on the grid intersection. I'm making a 300 by 300 column. And okay, let's say this, I'm okay with this. So this is where I'm going to add the markers. And now I need to give the positions for the horizontal grid lines. I will have one at 0, then one at 4.5, then one at 5 meters. So I put here 4,500, then 5,000. Then I just take these two out. And then horizontally, I'll have 3,700, then 4,008, and then 5,000. And we want to place this on every story. So on the grid elements, I want to show on all stories. Okay. The columns. You will be placing only in one story in the beams, and then we can bring them up normally. So this is how our grid lines are going to be placed. So I just place it here. Actually, I think I missed out. It should be from the center. So this should be here. Yeah. So you see, I placed the beams and columns and everything in one go. I can check in 3D. Actually, this one should be moved. I think he placed from the top down and not from the bottom up.
If you move the grid, will it move?
No, so I have to select it. I should have I should have gone to the settings and change it there.
Yeah.
So these two columns also, they have to move to grid. So I go to 3D, and yeah, so now we have our structural model placed with the columns, the beams, everything. Oh, I should have checked the beam height is not correct. Yeah. Anyway, I think you understood the concept of this. Now we have the building with the structure, with the slabs, the beams, and you see it's going all across the building.
Can you set the beams and columns and slabs as such load-bearing elements and show only the load-bearing elements in 3D?
Yeah, that's a good one. So I'm moving all the beams up as they should be.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'll go to 3D. I'll select beams, Control A. Oh, I placed them all the way down. Columns. So you see what happens when you have an architect setting the the structure. Okay, so as Chida mentioned, I can set the columns as load-bearing element and the beams. Okay. Columns also as load-bearing element. Yeah, I think the beams had a preset that was wrong. And I didn't go and check. Load bearing element, okay, and all the slabs also.
Yep.
Is load bearing element, except the ground floor one. Okay, so now if I want to show only the load bearing elements, you see I'm showing only the model. Yeah, the beams are the ones that were wrong. Anyway, don't trust an architect to the beams. But you see here the columns are correct. So we can have the core of load bearing elements, the core only of everything. So it's showing us also the railings and the.
So for in case architects and structural engineer working on the same project using the BIM cloud, basically you can set view settings to show only the load bearing elements for structural documentation, and for architectural documentation you can show everything with the finishes. So that way both architects and structural engineer can work in the same project. But we will definitely arrange another session to cover a bit more.
Yeah.
And also the MEP part. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think this probably at this stage it would be enough just to keep the the grid lines, and you don't even care about placing the columns yet. So yeah, for now, this grid line placement would be enough. Okay, so pretty much this is what I had to show you and for you guys to follow on ArchiCAD. I have saved another file. I have here another file that I want to show you how this can be done even faster. Okay, just to manage your expectations, this is not basic knowledge that you need for this. This is when you get to a point at your office, you need to be really productive, creating a lot of concept design stage models, and you need to prepare many design variations for your project. So this is what we have a site that was modeled using the morph, just push and pull all these different building heights. This is actually a map of an area in Hong Kong. This is in Wan Chai, or Sheung yeah. And here, let's say we're going to demolish this Costco tower, and we're going to come up with a different building that will be placed here. Okay, so for this, what I have done is I have set up a script, and this script will be running through ArchiCAD. So with this script here, we can actually have the curves that will be get from ArchiCAD. One curve will design the podium, one curve will design the tower, and then we'll go to the tower, divide them in slabs. These slabs will have apartment zones. We will place columns. It will place railing. It will place the balcony with a certain size. So if I have set up this script once, I can use it anytime for any project I want to do. So for example, this is already connected. So I start the connection here, Rhino Grasshopper. And with this connection, what I do is I select this ArchiCAD line, and I say here on Rhino and on Grasshopper that I will set a curve in ArchiCAD. And you see what happens is immediately this becomes green or gray, and it goes and generates this script, everything that is connected here. It goes and generates all this, So we keep adding the contours and is placing the slabs for commercial. So if I on this commercial now, remember before we had the podium. Now I can go and check, and this podium now, this podium now is placed here with that shape. So what is it doing? I will go here to my script and say, for example, that that the rotation angle I want for this, instead of being 10 degrees, I want them to be, so I just drag here, I move it to 11, and you see, or to 20 degrees, and you see immediately it changes the whole design. I'm just shifting here on this podium. I'm just shifting using this slider, and it will change exactly everything that I want. So if I want to change the podium height, let's say I want it to be like 20 meters instead of 30. I can just type here the value that I want, and it will change this. So let's say instead of 30, I want 27 or 25. I do that, and it will reduce the height of my podium. Okay, again, if I go and check this, how this works on the elevation, I just open up here my east elevation, and I have my drawing placed. If I change the angle again and the height of the podium, immediately you see my project will have that placed. And let's say I want to move the angle back to 10. I move it back to 10, and it will rotate the pieces so that they have a different configuration. Okay, let's see now. I want to do the residential tower on top of this podium. So you see immediately these podium floors are being represented on my floor plan. And let's say I have defined this as my residential tower. So I select this curve. I go here on Rhino, say that I want to set this to the curve in ArchiCAD. And immediately when I go to 3D, it's not there yet because it got all this shape, but I choose not to send it yet to ArchiCAD. So you see here, the apartment is false. If I double click and make it true, it will start sending now to ArchiCAD all the apartments that are being generated here from this script. So you see the bottom of the slab is being rotated, or the podium is being rotated. The tower is also being rotated, and is getting this shape being generated. Okay, so if I want to choose another view to showcase how this works, I do that. And for example, inside if inside Rhino Grasshopper, I choose to change the rotation angle, you see here is 30 degrees. If I want to rotate more this tower, actually in this case on this tower is also being tapered in terms of height. Let's say I want to move to 45-degree rotation. I choose like this, and the tower between the bottom and the top will have rotated in total 45 degrees. And you can imagine like how much work this would give us to to do manually. But in this case, what it's doing is applying the changes from Grasshopper, and it's going to produce all those changes by itself. So I don't need to worry about this. I don't need to model it manually. So once you have this, yeah.
There's a question. Is the script going to be shared to?
Well, I can share it if you guys want.
Wow. Yeah, that's great to hear. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So now every one of you can have an ArchiCAD and make a multi-story building just like that, huh? Quite fast. So you see, okay, he has now updated everything, rotated 45 degrees between this one and that one. If I go to my sections and elevations, well, you can see that this would also be active. My area schedule will also reproduce this. If I choose also to, actually this tower has gotten the shape of that contour. He has rotated it and he has changed the scale factor. So actually the top of the tower is 0.8 of the area of the bottom of the tower. So the more the tower goes up, it will become slimmer. Okay, I think now let me just pause this. Okay, so now we have all this inside ArchiCAD. I can navigate, I can see the shape that is generating. So you see it's quite interesting. If my engineer told me, hey, you're crazy, 45-degree angle, the tower is gonna fall down, you have to change it to another angle. Only thing I have to go and do is just change it on ArchiCAD, but for now I want to impress my client and keep it like that. Then I want to check on the elevations how this works. You see, immediately I have this whole representation of the tower. And I had a meeting with a client that told me, for example, that he would like to have these apartments to have a balcony because they have a very nice view to the sea. So what I go and do here is I'll start the connection again. Okay. Actually, it has quit. So don't worry. I'll just the good thing is that it recovers the script. So if you guys want to know how to get this Rhino Grasshopper connection working, you can actually use the Help Center and go through the Live Connection add-on. There's already a connection for ArchiCAD 24. You have a lot of YouTube videos. So you see in this case, you have 21 YouTube videos by Graphisoft showing you how to create the script itself. Actually, the script, the way how it's done is very simple for you to just connect to it. You can also go to Graphisoft page and look for the Rhino Grasshopper connection. Actually, I have it here. The Rhino Grasshopper ArchiCAD toolset. It tells you that you have to download ArchiCAD, get Rhino and Grasshopper. Actually, there's a 90-day trial you can use, so I think it's good enough for you to test for 90 days. Then you just download a connection that is available. So you see we have 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. So this already been around for 6 years now. And this is very interesting for you to start digging into this kind of things. So let's see if I have my script done now. Open recent. Let's see here. I open recovery file. Okay. So meanwhile, while this is showing, let me start the connection. So you see here, one more thing I want to add is the apartment, the balcony, as I mentioned before. Hopefully this, it has to go through everything and replace everything, the objects again, so it's taking a while to do that. Obviously, is using the settings again. And meanwhile, you can see that I have already my area schedule. I have already my sections, my elevations, my typical floor plans of how my tower will work. Okay. So let me see if this is done. Obviously, in this case, the better machine you have in terms of having more cores. This is actually already a 4-year-old MacBook Pro. It's still quite powerful, but the more cores, the more RAM you have, the better it is for this. So you see that because now I have 30-degree angle, the tower is a bit more straight. So is applying all these changes here. Yeah, I see every time that there's this yellow tags is saying that something is not working out. So let me see if I on the balcony, if this will sort it. Okay, so now is placing a balcony around every floor, and I will see how this will turn out. Again, as you can see, I'm just clicking on some triggers to send the whole information across from Grasshopper to ArchiCAD. Okay, let's see the balcony now coming out. And besides the balcony, we'll also place a railing around the balcony. Okay, so here, the good news is you can be having a coffee while this is happening. Okay, I have to go and check the balcony because the curve, they went inside, not outside. That's why it was giving me that error. Sometimes by restarting the connection, this will sort it out. Can you guys see the balcony is offsetting inside? So I have to fix the script or rerun it again to see how it's doing the offset. Okay, so let me just break the connection for a while. I want to show now in ArchiCAD the area schedule that is generated from here. And later we'll prepare an email with a repository where we will put the script that you see here, and where you can also check the video of this whole session, so if in case you want to follow it. Okay, so let me try to hide this. Okay, so now let's go to ArchiCAD here. We can navigate this, see how the whole building looks. We can open the sections. In this case,
question. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's a question. If you turn off the shadow, will the model generate faster?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I always like to show things nice, so That's why I like to show it like that. And to be honest, it doesn't make that much of a difference, so I'm okay with showing it like this. One thing is you can even have settings like for working and settings for presenting. So I wanted to show you here that the whole area schedule is being set from this model. I have and then I can have the area summary. So let's say commercial, I have this area, residential, I have this area. And if for some reason, let's say we decided that our tower, we want to have a little bit more area. So we want to arrange the shape of this curve and make it more, I don't know, with any other shape. The interesting thing is once you start the connection again, you see this contour. At the moment, what came from Rhino was this. So once the connection is going again, it starts replacing the whole area schedule, the whole elements, and your area schedule will reflect this. So you see, this is what it's doing in Rhino. And the Grasshopper script is rerunning all over again to make sure that it will recreate now the slab with this shape. So you can now go to 3D, see that the shape has been updated. And if I check my areas, naturally the area schedule will also be different. Yeah, well, I think it's still doing the change. It looked like it was already done here. Yeah, so basically now the change is done here. Let me see the area. Yeah, I think that this is already reflecting the new areas. 41,000. Okay, so pretty much this is it, what I had to show for you guys today. We still have 15 minutes left to go through some Q&A. So is this something that you would see yourself using in your practice? There's actually a lot more that can be shown. This is just again for the early design stage. I wanted to highlight that, you know, by doing these changes using a Rhino Grasshopper approach is even faster. Obviously, to come up with this recipe to do the script, it takes quite some time to do that. But once you've done it one time, you can do it for any project and with any shape. Okay, so this is pretty much the message I wanted to give to everyone. If somebody else has further questions or wants to turn on the mic and ask something, I'm okay with it. Just let me know. Okay, so that no questions, everyone is shy. Okay, so I think if there's no further questions, I will end this session, and we can do another session for another follow-up. If you guys want to write on the group that we have on WhatsApp, perfect. I want to thank Mr. Lou and Azra for organizing, and we could do this more recurrently. Another thing, we normally do every Tuesdays. Actually, this week we are on a break for the ArchiCAD Now sessions, and these ArchiCAD Now sessions actually showcase how we can use better ArchiCAD with some tips and tricks. These are normally like half an hour to 40-minute sessions with some Q&A after. Sometimes it overruns to 1.5 hours if the session is really interesting. And if you want to sign up for it or even look for older sessions, you can just look for ArchiCAD SG. And we have the webinars of the previous sessions available here. So we had a session about building up ArchiCAD library objects, Rhino Grasshopper connection. So this is actually a very good session if you want to look into the basics of what I showed you just now. We have here an office showing how they use a very small practice, showing how they use between 3 offices. One in Singapore, one in Indonesia, another one in Thailand, with only 3 people, how they work together in different projects. So you can just jump in, have a look at what we're doing, and keep in touch with us. And if you have anything that you would like to follow up, just let me know. So I'll let you guys all go eat because I'm also hungry now and looking forward for the next session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Great job, Marcelo. Very good session.
Thank you. Okay.